Hello, welcome to our web development tutorial series here on Turbo 360. In this series, we're going to learn about the Node.js runtime and Express.js web framework. We're going to use Node.js and Express to create a simple full-stack web application / website and deploy it. And along the way, we're going to learn all the key concepts required to build a full-stack project using Node.js and Express. This is a good intro to Node.js and Express, especially if you're coming from another background, let's say PHP or Ruby on Rails or something like that. But even if you have no web development background, this is a good introduction to Node.js and Express because it's going to be simple and quick, and it'll give you a good foundation for furthering your study in a full-stack JavaScript environment. So what is Node.js and Express? Node.js is a JavaScript-based runtime. Basically what that means is you use JavaScript to create your projects. It's been around since 2009, so it's been around for a while. This video is being recorded in 2020, and since then it has become very popular. Prior to that, you had never really heard of using JavaScript on the server or what's called the backend. But Node.js introduced that concept, and it has since exploded in popularity, and now it's considered very, very conventional. Express.js is a framework that uses Node.js that is used for Node.js. Basically what that means is it's a tool that makes a lot of the web development process faster and easier by abstracting away a lot of the repetitive nature of web development in general. So it's by far the most popular web framework for Node. There are a couple others. A notable one would be Koa, which is becoming more popular. But to this day, Express.js is still the most popular. A couple other web frameworks you may have heard of are things like Ruby on Rails, Django, which uses Python, Laravel for PHP. These are all web frameworks that are based on other languages, and those are the most popular ones in their respective languages. And Express, again, is the most popular web framework for Node.js and JavaScript. So in this series, we will obviously cover the basics of Node.js and Express, and that includes things like templating engines, which makes it easy to render websites and pages dynamically. We're going to deal with request routing, how to handle incoming requests, how to manage static assets like CSS files and images and PDFs and things like that. Using JavaScript on the front end, so that would be like jQuery or making what's called AJAX requests. And of course, we're going to do deployments to a live server. So these projects will be live on the internet, and they will be working in a real environment. So this is a beginner tutorial, but it's not for complete beginners. This isn't a day one tutorial, so you should have some basic background in things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Maybe some simple Bootstrap knowledge. A very, very cursory knowledge of Bootstrap should be enough for this. So maybe even just a couple hours on your own watching a few tutorials should be enough as far as Bootstrap is concerned. Make sure you understand what JSON means. That's JavaScript Object Notation. That's going to be the main means of communicating data back and forth. And basic rudimentary concepts should be understood as well, like what's a loop, an array, a variable, things like that. So a good measure of thumb, I would say, is if you've been studying web development or programming in general on your own for around 3 to 6 months, this is a good place to start learning about full-stack web development, actual web development, and start building actual real-life projects. If you are a complete beginner and you've never coded before in your entire life, this is going to be moving a bit too fast for you. Obviously, you're welcome to continue watching, but a lot of the stuff will be a little bit too soon. So you might want to go back to a more introductory tutorial. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing we need to do is make sure you have all the key tools and libraries installed. So obviously the first thing you're going to need is Node.js. So head over to nodejs.org, and if you don't already have it, download the LTS version. So that's 12.18.3. So you want to download and install that. I am using a Mac OS. You might be watching this on a PC or a Windows machine. And be aware that some of the commands are not exactly the same. Most of them are, but some of them don't overlap exactly the same. And when that's the case, I'll try and point that out. I remember most of them, but some of them might not be exactly the same. So if you come across a bug for that reason, just Google your way through it, and you should be able to find the proper command. So once you get the installs done, open up your terminal right here. And you want to check your node version, which version of node you are running. You can do that by doing node-v. And I am currently running the most up-to-date version of the LTS at least, and so that's good to go. Now with the node installation comes another software package called NPM, or Node Package Manager, which is a software that does pretty much what it sounds like. It manages packages. So when you need to install other libraries or other packages, other what's called dependencies, these are all kind of the same thing. We use NPM in the Node environment. So the Node Package Manager handles our dependencies and installing libraries and things like that. So we want to make sure we have NPM, or Node Package Manager, also properly installed. And you can do that by running basically the same command, npm-v. And then it should give you the version number of the NPM package. So I'm running 6.14.7, which means I have Node and NPM both properly installed. And we're going to install one more package using NPM right now. Packages using NPM can be installed primarily in one of two ways. They can be installed in what's called locally, which means we're installing a package in a specific project and only that project. Or they can be installed globally, which means we're installing a package on the actual computer, the machine, globally on the machine. A global install is kind of like installing regular software. You're just installing it on your machine. So I'm going to install a package called the Turbo CLI by using NPM. So we do sudo npm install -g turbo CLI like that. A couple things here. If you're running on Windows, you do not need the sudo. You can just ignore that and just start from here. Here, I'm telling NPM to install the Turbo CLI globally. And that's what the -g means, globally. And this will then install the Turbo CLI globally, or NPM will do that on my machine. So go ahead and do the same thing. Again, if you're running Windows, you do not need the sudo. If you're running Mac OS or Linux, you should use a sudo. It's going to ask for your password. Go ahead and enter it, and then it'll install the package. And what the Turbo CLI is a tool, a library, that's going to help us make deployments much easier. We're going to use Turbo for our deployment environment. So you should head over to turbo360.co and make sure you have an account here. And here's where we're going to deploy our projects. This is free, so it's just giving you basically free server space. So go ahead and sign up if you haven't already. And then make sure you have the Turbo CLI installed. And the way we can do that is by doing turbo and then just the word version. And it should tell you the version number, which is for me 0.39.2. If you have a later version number like 0.39.3 or 0.40, you should be fine. If you have a version number that's less than this, go ahead and run the install again, and it'll give you the most updated version. So once you have those three things installed, Node, NPM, and the Turbo CLI, you have everything you need for this tutorial. We should be ready to go for the entire series. And again, just to reiterate, the Turbo CLI will give us the sort of the bridge to deploy our website to our Turbo environment on our account. So again, make sure you have an account. Otherwise, the CLI won't have anything to deploy the website to. So once you have all that ready to go, head over to the next video and we will start building out our project.